from the team that beat his New England Patriots in the Super Bowl last year to Reich's offense with the Colts this year. Coach Mangini, I ask you, how much can the Patriots take away from Reich's offense in the Super Bowl to game plan for Thursday night?
I think this is actually a great situation for New England to be in on a short week, because you put so much time and effort into working the Super Bowl and concepts. The amount of detail that goes into that preparation is tremendous. So then to have that offensive coordinator now be running the team that you're playing on a short week, the parts are different in terms of the human beings that are running the plays, but the concepts are consistent. Guys have seen it. Guys have some recall. So it's a great situation for New England. I think on the flip side, Frank Reich obviously knows New England well defensively, except there is somebody new calling the defensive plays, so that's going to change the tendency. So it may not carry over as dramatically to the Colts.
Yeah, I believe for New England, huge advantage for them, because you have your players that are locked in to that game plan, what Philadelphia is going to run. So people think, well, from week to week, you don't go through a 2-week Super Bowl experience and just put that stuff behind you. So now early in the season, I believe that they have all that intel. It'll be easier for the players to prepare in a shorter week, not because of the personnel, but because of the concepts. And that's what Coach is saying. The concepts of what they did to attack the New England defense, he knows that Frank Reich is going to try to teach those same concepts with the personnel of the Colts. So, but the Colts, though, they don't have the personnel that Philadelphia had to be able to attack New England. So what Coach is saying is New England has more of a benefit with their players and their coaches having gone through that experience compared to Frank Reich and a few of the coaches, and none of the players in Indianapolis went through that 2 weeks of training for Super Bowl 52.
I was laughing to myself a little bit when you were explaining it, because it was almost word for word what Chris said before the show.
Coach, I love having you here. I really do.
Because of everything we were doing on the show today, this one quote and this one question was the one that when I saw it on the board this morning, I'm like, man, it didn't, as a guy that hadn't been game planning, it didn't make sense to me. I said to Chris before the show, I said that there's almost no similarity between the Colts roster and the Eagles roster. The Eagles were talking about how great their big people are. The Colts need a bunch of better big people. The Eagles had a plethora of wide receivers in the Super Bowl last year. The Colts have T.Y. Hilton. He's dinged up. Like, they had Nick Foles to luck. So I thought it was just coach speak, that the Pats and the coaches are saying, yeah, we'll use Super Bowl experience, but it was nonsense. And what you were saying was, when you see, okay, when they go 3 trips right, one guy out to the left, that means we're going to be in this type of defense.
Yes.
Like that there are different concepts that you are going to defend against the same, almost no matter what human beings are on the other side of that equation. Like, that's what you're talking about?
Well, there's that, and there's also ways that you may want to pressure based off their protections, for their offensive protections. That stuff carries over. Where it has an edge is the human being calling the plays, too. So as coordinators moved around the NFL, well, what I always would do and what we did is we track that person, because that person has a fingerprint. So whether he's calling plays in Miami or Philly or the Colts, that person is that person, and his DNA doesn't dramatically change from team to team. So you can build up this library on guys that you can use, you know, regardless of where they are.
That's what I did. After my years in Philadelphia, I realized with Buddy Ryan and the coaches we were facing, Bill Parcells with the Giants and Joe Gibbs with Washington, I started keeping a file, not only on the cornerbacks and the safeties, but on the defensive coordinators, what they like to play, when do they like to pressure, when do they like to come after guys, and if they get into a situation where they don't have the best personnel, what is his fallback coverage? Is it cover 3? Is it cover 2? So those type of situations, they give you a tremendous amount of intel so that when you get in the game, you're not guessing as much. It is kind of it's an educated predictability of what this person has done in the past, and it continues to follow them. Coaches have habits, and they come out in their tendencies of how they call the game.
Coaches do have habits, and I'm sure quarterbacks who've been playing with the team for so long have habits as well, which is why getting Julian Edelman back is going to be a huge advantage, not only having the knowledge of what Frank Reich had, but also having someone that he's very comfortable with. Whether Gronk plays or not, how much of an injection is that going to be for the Patriots this week?
It's going to be significant, and even if it's only on third down, even if he's not able to play the whole game, if they can put him in on third down and he can get 2 or 3 extra conversions that they haven't been getting over the first 4 weeks, that extends drives. To me, that's where he could play a significant role tomorrow in a really meaningful way.
From a wide receiver standpoint, we provide different things to an offense outside of the tangible things as far as yards after the catch, running certain routes. There's a certain amount of energy. Offensive linemen don't bring energy to a football team unless you're running the ball. Then you start running the ball, they start talking. They don't do too much talking the rest of the time. The quarterback and the wide receivers, running backs don't even do a lot of talking. So wide receivers, yeah, we talk a lot. That's why a lot of us on TV. But when you're playing offensive football, we provide an energy, a spark, something that the offense doesn't have. The quarterback, it's hard for him to do it. He's thinking. We want him to be in a different spot. Running backs, they don't do it because of their responsibility. Linemen, it's not their characteristics. But wide receivers, watch New England when they take the field tomorrow night. Besides Tom Brady, Edelman is the first one out the tunnel and runs down to the home crowd and gets the crowd engaged.
He's the only one that provides them with juice.
Watch them when they get first downs. He's one, besides Gronk, he's one of the few guys that has demonstrative demonstrations on the field. Like, they don't allow it. The guys just don't do it, but that is his role. Like, he's a little fireball. He's an overachiever. He's undersized. And, guys, we'd like to see that on a football team. And we cheer for guys like that. And we expect them to have that type of swag and bring that type of energy. That's what I expect to see from Edelman.
Well, it's also, you heard the quotes or you've read the quotes from the locker room about the energy he's brought to practice. That has value, too. Sometimes you get through the first quarter of the season, and you can start to drag. And now to insert that, infuse that energy.
Back in the day, I used to talk.
Dorsett, man, he's a great guy. I've always told him since this is not, since he was 15. In college and everything, but he's a nice guy. Cordell Patterson, he's got some swag, but it's in special teams. He don't have that communicative ability. No, he just hasn't been that dominant offensive player. Josh Gordon is scared to death. He's scared to say anything. He's making, did I run the right way? Yeah, Josh, you know how to run. But when you go to New England, you have to change a lot of your outward characteristics to be able to fit into the system. Hogan is a system player. He got no type of swag about him. Very, very, very plain, very, very vanilla. And I really, really mean that. Yeah. Edelman, they need him. He's got that edge to him. He's got that juice. He's a smaller version of Gronk that they allow him the freedom to be able to express himself.
And that is something I would imagine, particularly on a Thursday, you need. It's hard, man, to play 96 hours after you last played football.
Yes.
Your body's not built for it.
Ain't no doubt about it.
I'm delighted we have Thursday Night Football. It's given us great topics. We have great games. It's on Fox now. But for the guys doing it, it's the hardest game of the year. Yeah. I would imagine. It's the hardest game of the year is the Thursday game that they have when they get
players love playing on Thanksgiving. Yeah, because we know everyone's watching. But this Thursday night deal, we know it's part of the schedule, but it is the worst game for NFL players. They hate Thursday.
For the players. Now, they get the mini bye after, and there's whatever. But you need some extra juice there, I would imagine. You need someone, and it helps for Edelman, by the way. He's fresh. I mean, Edelman's been on the shelf for a month, so he didn't have getting beat up 3 days ago. So I think it's a good time for him to come back. And one last point to circle around to what the initial question was about the Super Bowl to now. The thing that was the signature of the Eagles last year was how great they were on third downs. As much as the Colts have struggled, that's the one thing Frank Reich definitely has taken with him so far. That's the number one third down offense in football this year.
Oh, that's surprising.
So it's shocking to me because the offense has been mediocre. If they're going to have any chance against New England on tomorrow night, they're going to have to continue that trend.
Well, they're also number 2 in sacks defensively, so it's going to be interesting to see whether they can pressure Tom Brady with just their standard rush.
Well, go ahead over there, dropping a little sack thing. All right.
With your bad self. Go on that corner.
Don't have an influence on on both of them.
Big time. Colts and Pats Thursday Night Football, only on Fox. Coming up, why is Le'Veon Bell far from the Steelers' biggest concern? That's next on First Things First.
Hey, Jay, give me a shot of Coach's wardrobe. Turn around here, Coach. Look at this. Fox, look at this sporty. Look at Coach.
The shoes, too.
Hey, NFL coaches, if you want a coach got some swag, come get Mangini.